would you want to have to keep doing all this and keep changing position like that constantly when it's just right there for you? Hey everybody, Johnny Stewart here, and today I'm going to tell you again why I still think that this way to play the G chord that I'm doing right now is the worst way to play a G chord. Now, a couple months ago I made a video on this topic and I got quite a bit of responses on it. I got hundreds of comments and a lot of them were kind of harsh, saying, hey, what do you know, I've played a G chord that way with my first three fingers, for 50 years and all that. And that's all well and good. So if it works for you, that's perfectly fine. But the reason I think it is still the worst way to play it is because I still think that it is locking you into a position that is not useful for anything else but that one particular chord. For example, like I showed you last time, you can use these three fingers instead of these three fingers, and you can play the G chord with the same notes, the same exact fingering, that same open G chord. Just take your index finger out of the equation for the G chord, and then you're right there when you're ready to go into a C, instead of having to shift back and forth like this, which is very awkward, as opposed to just having it right there. You also can't really do any fills, at least not really anything that you want to hear. I guess you can throw in a flat 5 pretty easy, but who the hell wants to do that, especially when that's going to be dissonant. The D sharp is going to be dissonant with your open D string, which you can't really do anything else about because now you're using all four fingers in this awkward position. So, like I said, with this fingering, using these three fingers, you can easily put in the fourth for a sus4 chord. You can even do a sixth with your index finger on the second fret of your D string. It's not the way that I would prefer to play a G6 chord, but at least that is one option. Another reason why I like this better, let's say you want to play a G7 chord. So that's a G flat 7. So for anybody who doesn't know, instead of playing, I'll even do it with this other fingering. So instead of playing that full chord, that full major chord, then you're going to want to play one whole step down from that, and that is a flat 7. So if you want to play a G flat 7, which is pretty popular in just about every style of music, you've got to change your entire hand, and then guess what? You're going to be making a C shape, but you're going to be playing different strings than a C. You're going to be putting your ring finger on the third fret of your low E string for the G. You're going to be putting your middle finger on your second fret of your A string. You're going to be playing the next three strings open, and you're going to be putting your pinky finger on your first fret of your high E string. So that is a G flat 7 chord, or commonly called just a G7 chord. Now, why go back and forth between that, which is obviously very awkward, if you don't have to? Because guess what? The way I play the G chord that I showed you before, guess what? You're playing your G7. All you've got to do is just put your pinky back on that third fret on your high E string, and that's the chord right there. So if you're playing something, instead of, look how awkward that is. Who wants to do that if you can avoid it? Apparently some of you do, but that's okay for you. If it works for you that way, then that's fine. But the reason I like this shape better, like I've been saying, is because it gives you all these other options. So let's say that you're firmly committed to playing the G chord with your first three fingers. Why not use all four? Do yourself a favor and at least put in the fifth right under the high G. So if you're going to insist on doing all these awkward transitions instead of just these nice fluid transitions that you can do with this fingering that I showed you before, then at least give yourself the added benefit of playing a chord that sounds fuller and better. You're going to take your index finger and you're going to put it on your A string on your second fret. You're going to use the middle finger on your low E string, the third fret for the low G. And normally you would take your ring finger and put that on the high E. Why not do this instead? Take your ring finger and move it back one string onto your B string at the third fret, and then instead of playing the third, you're going to be playing the fifth of the chord, and then put your pinky on your high E. Now this is a chord that I use sometimes, so about the only time you'll ever see me using this shape instead of this shape to play a G chord is when I'm playing a modern rock song, like something like Matchbox 20, something like that. Well, modern rock 20 years ago, I guess. So that does have application in a lot of songs, and that is something that I do. But just for generally playing the G chord, why would you want to have to keep doing all this and keep changing position like that constantly when it's just right there for you? And when you have so many more options. Like the G7, right there at your fingertips. All right, everybody, so that is why I think that first 3-finger G chord still is the worst. And you can feel free to disagree with me. Tell me how you feel about it in the comments. I actually do read the comments. I try to respond to every single one. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more guitar lessons and get more guitar tips at Johnny Stewart's Guitar Lounge. And I will see you next time.